When you've got a big old farm and you've got space on your farm, it's very common that you want to fill it up with all the animals, and you're always thinking, what's the next animal that I can add? Today we're going to talk about some questions you should ask yourself before you add any more animals. And this is an important thing to talk about because as things get crazy in the world, it's very common for people to talk about, I need to raise all my own meat and I need to add all the animals that I can. Well, today we're going to figure out how you can make the best decision for your homestead about that whole thing. So right now, as we're currently coming out of winter, all we have on our farm right now is the laying hens that we have overwintered and the Muscovy ducks that we have overwintered. And here we have the Muscovy ducks in their natural habitat. They're not very impressed with the snow. Hi guys! What you doing? Eventually here in the next couple months we'll be getting our feeder pigs and we will be getting some meat birds to raise. So that's kind of basically what we do here at our farm right now. And I am always thinking, what should I add? Should I add rabbits? Should I add quail? Should I add goats? Should I add, like, what should I add? I have to add something, right? Should I add a baby emu and a baby donkey? I should. Okay, but really, here are some things you should ask yourself before you add anything to your farm, especially right now. The first thing you're going to want to take a look at is the cost and the availability of the animals that you want to raise. Y'all, we raise Cornish cross chickens every year for meat, and when I looked at the price of them this year, oh my word, they have gone up. I happen to know that back in 2018, we paid $1.20 a chick when we were getting our Cornish cross. We get straight run, we ordered 50, so it was $1.20 a piece. You guys, when I looked at the price this year, depending on what hatchery I go with, it's double to almost triple the cost. Per chick. Per chick. The cost is going up. Some things are harder to find right now, and so keep that in mind if you want to add something to your farm. Another thing to pay attention to is the cost and the availability of food for the animals that you want to raise. Now, last year we had some issues every once in a while. We have a local feed store that we go to, and we had issues every once in a while. We would go there to get layer feed, and they wouldn't have layer feed, so we'd have to substitute different things like pig feed for a little while because they didn't have layer feed. There have also been times they don't have chick starter, they don't have meat bird feed, and the cost of feed is going up. So keep in mind, if you want to add all these animals to your farm, you also have to feed them. So are you going to be able to do that? Are you going to be able to find the feed, and are you going to be able to afford it? Keeping in line with that, another thing to keep in mind is cost and availability of the supplies that you're going to need. There are shortages everywhere. Keep in mind, can you find waterers? Can you find feeders? Can you get a rabbit hutch? Can you get the lumber to buy the things that you need to have for these animals that you want to bring to your farm? The fourth thing that I think is worth exploring is, how do you deal with bringing something new to your farm and having it not turn out? Some people will bring a new animal to their farm. If it doesn't work out or something goes really wrong, they're like, okay, well that didn't work, and they just kind of move on. Other people bring a new animal to their farm or do a new setup, and if it doesn't work out, it's really, really stressful for them, and they take it really, really hard. So, considering the fact that there are some things going on in the world that are a little bit stressful, or that some people think are a little bit stressful, so in adding more animals to your farm in an already kind of stressful energy that's going on, is that a good idea for you? Is it just going to stress you out more if that animal situation doesn't work out? Number 5, I know a lot of people want to have a closed system when it comes to their animals. So instead of maybe getting Cornish cross, which you have to buy every year, they want to switch to rabbits. So, you know, you can get a buck and a couple does, and rabbits are going to do what they do. And if you want to put a rabbit in your freezer, you're not going to have to go buy a rabbit every time you want to do that. So that's kind of what I mean by closed system. It's really good to work towards that. We will definitely work towards that here at our farm. But the one thing I want to point out is that you can have a closed system when it comes to getting your animals, and maybe not have a closed system with your feed. What we're actually going to work towards this year is trying to produce more of our own feed. So growing things in our garden, growing things in our hydroponic system that we would actually be able to supplement or just straight out feed our animals. So instead of adding more animals to our farm right now, like rabbits, which will probably happen next year, we're going to work on the actual food situation and be way more intentional about that. So I'm pretty excited about that. Number 6. When you are thinking about what kind of animals you want to bring to your homestead as a meat source for yourself, it's really important that you figure out how much meat you actually need. How much meat do you have to raise? Having extra is great, but having so much in your freezer or on your shelves that you're never going to get to it, it totally happens, is a completely different thing. So how much meat do you need? For instance, when we were trying to figure out how many Cornish cross we would raise a year, I thought, well, there's 52 weeks in a year. we'll order 50. That will give us the option of having 1 chicken a week, right? So we'll put a chicken a week on our menu. So we raise 1 batch of Cornish cross chickens a year. We butcher once a year. So when I'm going the next year and I'm looking in the freezer, how many chickens do we have left? And I see we only have 4 chickens left, then 50 is probably a good number for our family to order. However, if I look in that freezer and there are still 33 chickens in that freezer, I probably don't have to raise 50 Cornish cross a year. The other thing worth pointing out is that sometimes your meat needs change, meaning the size of your family changes, how many people are home. I mean, my kids are 19 and almost 18 now, and sometimes they're here, sometimes they're not. That's completely different than when I had, you know, a 13 and a 14-year-old boy that were eating us out of house and home and were constantly hungry. So it's important to take a look at how much meat you actually need and maybe balance the amount of animals that you need to raise against that. I'm here where we normally will keep our pigs and our meat birds, so we don't use this barn during the winter because we don't have anything in it. But number 7, another point to bring up is how much meat do you want to butcher? When you're looking at what kind of animals to bring to your farm, what is the amount of meat that you're going to get from those animals? So for instance, the dressed weight on my Cornish cross is normally about 5 pounds. Dressed weight meaning this is what I actually will put in the freezer when the bird is all butchered, eviscerated, wrapped up, ready to go in the freezer. It's a 5-pound bird. Let's say I want to have 25 pounds of meat. We're going to go easy math here. 25 pounds of meat in my freezer. I'm going to need 5 Cornish cross to put 25 pounds of meat in my freezer, right? Now, if I'm going to do something like quail, which is really great for people who have a smaller space, really great for people who maybe don't like Cornish cross, lots of different reasons that people would raise quail, and that's great, but to get the same amount of meat from quail, 25 pounds, you're going to have to raise 75 to 100 quail to get the same amount of meat in your freezer. So it all depends on what you want to do, where you live, what kind of homestead you have, but definitely keep that in mind. Number 8, when you're trying to decide what kind of meat you're going to keep on your farm, it's worth asking, do you actually eat the meat that you raise? Now, this seems like a really stupid question, but the last few years we've raised turkeys. I think turkeys are amazing. They're super fun animals. I love them as an animal. They have great personalities. They're super fun. But you guys, turkey is literally the last thing that we take out of the freezer. It's not our favorite thing to eat. So when I'm thinking, what kind of meat should I raise here on my farm? Maybe turkeys should not be on the list, and maybe we should switch that out with something else. Number 9, I know that there are lots of people that will say, I'm just going to raise all the meat because I have all the space, so I'm just going to add all the animals, and if I have extra, I can sell that or I can use it to barter with people. And that's great. You absolutely can do that. Keep in mind, the price of things are going up, which means your animals might be worth more if you're selling them, but it also means it costs more to raise them and feed them and buy them in the first place. But keep in mind, if you're going to sell the meat that you're raising, even if it's just to family and friends, there is a difference between people saying they're going to buy the chickens or the pork or the turkey that you're raising. There's a difference between that and them actually buying the chicken or the pork or the turkey you're raising. Just keep that in mind. Again, do whatever works best for you on your homestead. But I guess the point of this video is just to point out, even if everybody's telling you, oh, you have space, you should add this animal, or oh my gosh, World War III is coming, the zombie apocalypse is coming, you need to raise all the things on your farm. I just want to give you permission, maybe, to not raise all the things on your farm, to ask yourself these questions and figure out exactly what is the best plan for your homestead. I know that this year we are absolutely going to focus more on growing food for ourselves and our animals. We're going to be way more intentional about that, and that's probably going to be one of my next videos, because really, in the past, we've really not been intentional about it. We just throw some seeds in the ground and hope for the best. So this year is going to be completely different, and I think in a way, that's going to help us with more meat production next year and put us on a good path for the future. So what do you think? Are you adding animals to your farm this year? Are you raising different things? More things? Less things? Let me know. I see you peeking. The first thing you're staying in line with that, cost and availability. Wow. That was some crazy echoing. I was like throwing my voice there. That was weird, you guys.